From analog
Hi, Jim. You have a great signal up here. You're 5.9 plus.
Digital.
We are everywhere you want to be. This is the CQ Blind Hams Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and good evening, and welcome to the CQ Blind Hams Techzoom. This is our virtual meeting off the air, where we, of course, discuss all kinds of neat ham radio related things from a blindness perspective. My name is Julian. My call is N1CA, and we're going to go around here and introduce the crew, and then get ready for our wonderful presentation about making weather radars accessible. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. So let's see. Without further ado, let's see how much of our crew is hanging around here. Is Steve WB2KTV around? Maybe not. How about Robert NC5R?
Yep, I'm here. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the CQ Blind Hams Techzoom. It's nice to be here with everyone. Thank you, Julian.
You're welcome, and it's good to be back. I haven't been on one of these things for a while. Got a lot of things going on, so it's wonderful to hear all the familiar voices and hear what's been going on. So let's see. Joel, W0CAS, what's going on with you?
Oh, not a lot, Julian. I've been playing with my new hex beam and making a lot of new DX country contacts. I'm up to 167 countries, so I'm having fun doing that. Oh, we're also going to be giving a radio away tonight at the end of the program.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention that. That's right. Somebody's going to walk away from here with a nice brand new accessible MD UV380. That is awesome. Let's see who else is on our list here. What about, I know he's usually in the background, but Angelo N2DYN, any words there for you near a microphone? Maybe not, but he's...
Yeah, good to see everybody here. Welcome aboard, and it should be a great talk tonight. And thanks, Steve, for taking care of this. And that's all I got.
All righty. Sounds awesome. All right. Well, before I kick it over to Steve here, who's going to introduce our guest, I'll introduce myself again, Julian, N1CA. Normally from Woodland Hills, California, currently down in beautiful Southwest Florida, Cape Coral area, visiting my family, Thanksgiving, all that good stuff. So been here for a little over a week and possibly awaiting the arrival of Sarah or the portion. We'll have to see, hopefully not, but that's what we're watching here. So this weather radar thing may come in quite handy here within the next week. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and send it to Steve, W0QA, to tell us a little bit what's going on with him and to introduce our guest. Steve, go ahead, W0QA, go ahead and take it.
All right. Thank you, Julian. Good evening, everyone. I call myself a closet meteorologist. From 1989 until, almost the end of 2002, I provided severe weather coverage for a group of stations here in Wichita, Kansas. And I was the guy that was responsible for taking care of all of the severe weather coverage evenings and overnights, which was quite interesting because some nights, if I was on the radio in the middle of the night, I still had to get up and go to my day job. But I used all of the technologies that I could use at that time. And I would have loved to have had radar scope at that time. It would have helped me, but it wasn't around yet. So many years ago, I did put it on my iPhone. And one day I just was looking around and I stumbled across this chair with Be My Eyes. And I thought, wait a minute, what is this? And I was blown away. So tonight we're going to learn more about radar scope, how it works, why it works, and possible enhancements to accessibility and what's going on. With us is our guest speaker, Mike Wolfinbarger with DTN. He's out of Norman, Oklahoma. And that company is the developer of radar scope and other apps as well. So, Mike, I'm just going to turn the floor over to you and let you take it and give us all the scoop on radar scope.
Thanks, Steve, and everybody else. I appreciate you inviting me to join you tonight. It's good to be here. A little bit of background on me. I've been in the weather software business since the early 90s. Went to school at OU and then went to work for a group called the Oklahoma Mesonet. We were building a surface observing network in Oklahoma for monitoring the weather. Spent 18 years there, and in the process of working there, we got involved with radar data in the mid 90s. NextRad data became available to more people, originally through selling it commercially, but then eventually distributing it for free. And we were one of the first places to take that data, build software for personal computers, and then train emergency managers on how to use it. So we had a program called OK First in Oklahoma for several years that would buy equipment, buy internet access when they didn't have it already, and get radar data and the knowledge of how to interpret it into the hands of emergency managers and first responders. So that's kind of how I got started in this. Fast forward to 2008, the iPhone comes along, and those of us who had been working on this realized that the iPhone was a great platform for our software. We'd been building software that ran on Macintoshes and PCs for a long time, so a lot of our code would already work. So we adapted our radar viewing software to the iPhone, launched it on the App Store in August of 2008, and been working on that ever since. We spun our business out of OU, got acquired by another OU startup called WDT, and they were in turn acquired by DTN about 5 years ago. So we've been there ever since. So anyway, that's kind of how we came to be here. And Steve reached out to me, I guess, about a year ago, said, "Hey, would you be interested in doing this sometime?" And it took us a while to get to the point where I could be here and do it because I had some other obligations, but we were finally able to make it happen. I guess just briefly, what originally made our software unique was that we're not just having a server somewhere run and process radar data and make an image and send it to your phone. We're sending the actual binary radar data that comes straight out of NextRad to your phone, and then we're using the power of your phone's processor and graphical processing unit and all of those things to render it in real time. So as you zoom in, you continue to get a level of detail, and so you get data faster than you would if we had to pre-process it. So our goal from the beginning has been to get data into the hands of people as quickly as possible, in as full resolution and detail as possible, and with as little bandwidth as possible, because when you're using a mobile device and you're out away from home or away from an office, you may not have the fastest connection, especially in rural areas, places like here in Oklahoma, where severe weather can affect you, but you're not maybe near the best cellular connection. So those are kind of the things that we still focus on today to make RadarScope a good app for that market, those people to use. What else would you guys like to know?
Steve, we noticed Steve was telling us about the AI that you have implemented that works with Be My Eyes, I think, Be My AI. Could you tell us a little bit about how that came about?
Sure. You know, the funny thing is when Steve reached out to me about that and asked me about it, I didn't know a lot about it myself. And so he described it to me, and I said, well, I got to go look into this and see what's going on. So Be My Eyes is a separate app and service that they've been around quite a few years, I think. They'll either use your iPhone camera or they'll take a screenshot of what's on your screen, and then either through human volunteers or more recently through artificial intelligence describe for someone what's on that image or what their camera's pointed at, which is obviously a great service. I mean, it's a pretty remarkable idea. It's one of those things that, before smartphones came along, we wouldn't have imagined that we'd be able to do something that incredibly useful and cool. But what we did do in RadarScope is we built in support for Apple's extension mechanism. They have a component that you can tap into called sharing extensions. And what a share extension does is it'll let your app connect to other apps that offer these share extensions, and then it just automatically integrates them together. So when you tap that share button in RadarScope, you've got options for whatever, say, social media apps you have, Facebook or Blue Sky or something like that, to post directly to there so that you don't have to go through all the steps to work in both apps. You've got options to do things like save it to your Photos app. And if you've got Be My Eyes installed, you have the option to have Be My Eyes look at that screenshot using artificial intelligence and give you a description of it. So that's what they're doing. And so I think what's really cool about the way that service is integrated is we didn't have to build an AI for it. We didn't have to build that service in. Be My Eyes does that, but then they've got a way to integrate with any app like RadarScope. I've played around with it a little bit, and I will say that no AI is perfect. I think there's always room for improvement, but it does do a pretty remarkable job of giving you a basic description of what you're looking at. It identifies tornado warning polygon and is able to describe what radar product you're viewing, what the timestamp, things like that. So I think it's a remarkable good start, and I look forward to seeing it getting better over time.
Yeah, we've had a couple of weather guys on our group, the Blind Hams Network. We're on the radio quite a bit, and we have one guy that's really a weather nut. We call him Mark, WB6BJ, and he's not here, I don't think. Are you, Mark? No, I guess not. So the question he's brought up, that in the radar scope, when it does do the connection to Be My Eyes, it's taking a photo. It's taking just a snapshot of the radar, and it can't tell you which direction the front is moving. And I don't know if there's any way to ever make that alive, where you take 2 or 3 snapshots and you figure this one was at this coordinate, and a minute later it's at this coordinate, and sort of give us a directionality of which way a front is moving. Is there any way that could be done, maybe?
I don't know at this point. RadarScope has the ability to share video as well as still images or animated GIFs, where you've got multiple frames, so it'll show the progression of the storm as it moves. I don't think Be My Eyes has the ability to accept that format right now, but if it ever did, then in theory it could look at it and see that storm movement and give you an idea of where it's going. There's a lot of challenges with I think communicating geographic information and cartographic information, on maps, and then adding a radar layer on top of that kind of adds to that. So I think there's certainly some challenges for people to explore and figure out, how do we make this better? I've seen Apple do some new things over the last few years with audio effects and things like that for voiceover and for voiceover related stuff. If you ever used Apple Stocks app, it uses their charting framework and, the stock price graph will do audio to give you an idea of, the idea is it's giving you an idea of relative stock price. Is it going up and down, things like that. And I wonder if something like that might be an area we could explore to give people an idea of what is really going on in the detail of that radar image. You can describe a radar image in terms of, different size and shape of colored pixels and features that it's detecting. But there's a lot of detail in there that maybe an AI description can't fully capture. And so I think there's a lot of room for research and development, experimentation on how to make that more accessible.
One of the other things about the app that, and I know, Mike, I talked to you about it, is when you start the app for the first time, selecting the radar you want to watch. There's no way you can do that with voiceover. You have to have someone with eyeballs to make that selection for you. And I don't know if there's any way to use location services on the phone or, key in a zip code or, I don't know what options are available to make selecting the radar you want to watch possible.
Yeah, that's an area where we need some improvement in terms of voiceover support. Most of RadarScope's user interface is built using standard native Apple controls. One of the design goals of RadarScope that we have is to build a native app as much as possible. And when you build a native app, you get a lot of support for things like voiceover and stuff like that. I say for free. I mean, it's a little bit of work, but the one part of that initial first launch experience that is a custom built UI is that initial radar selection. And it's been a task I've had in our backlog for a while to go back and revisit that and see how we'll have to write some extra code to integrate that in and get full voiceover support for it, because those aren't standard Apple buttons. They're geo-referenced onto the map. I also wonder if that's just doing voiceover with that's the best way to do it. And maybe what we really need is, like you say, some kind of way to enter a zip code or just kick out and say, give me my current location and walk through that process. So there's definitely some work we need to do there to improve on that part. I think, and I'm never the one that wants to say I think we do a pretty good job with this, because I would rely on Steve or someone to tell me, yeah, you're doing a good job with the rest of it or you're not. But I think most of the rest of our user interface does a pretty good job with voiceover support. But that initial first launch experience does need some more work. And we do plan to do that in a future release.
The way that I have tried to come up with some indication of
direction of movement of storms as I run it through Be My Eyes. And then I wait 15 minutes and I do it again. And then I just from my memory compare, okay, it was over these cities. Now it's over this one. I get an idea what direction it's moving. And of course,
Right.
the colors are there. And if you know basically what color means intensity, that helps a lot too. So there's some kind of little workarounds, but if this thing could just provide a little more information somehow, it would be absolutely amazing.
Yeah. I think the AI part of Be My Eyes is pretty new. I guess it's been around at least a year now, but that's still pretty new in the grand scheme of things. So I think they've got a lot of room for improvement. And as I mentioned, if they provide a way to accept more than one image at a time, like to see an animated loop where they can see the motion, then perhaps they could describe that. One of the biggest challenges in interpreting radar data for the visually impaired is to capture the intensity of the storm in different places and be able to map that intensity to a particular geographic area. So its location, its relative size, the domain, the area that it's covering, but also which way is it going and how fast,
All right. I have other points to raise. So I think I'm going to open up the floor to participants this evening and see what kind of questions they have. So if you have a question, let me know. Well, I thought we'd have questions, but I guess not.
Well, I got one or two small questions, and those are simple questions. I think there's talks of two different pricing. Is that one entry level and maybe an advanced pricing? You want to reflect on what those may be for anyone listening that would be interested in looking for radar scope?
Sure. Our basic app is a $10 one-time purchase from the App Store. It's available on iPhone and Android. It's also available on Macs and PCs. PC app is a $30 app. That's a much smaller market for us. We charge more for it. But the base app gives you NextRed radar data. It gives you radar data in some other countries like Canada and Finland and Germany, Australia. And it gives you a full suite of radar products. There's a couple of subscription tiers that are optional. What we call RadarScope Pro Tier 1 is $10 a year. And it adds quite a few NWS products that come out of their forecast offices. It'll add mesoscale discussions for convective storms and rainfall. It adds local storm reports. It adds special weather statements, those kinds of things. It gives you a longer, if you are looking at a animated loop, over a period of time, it lets you extend that and go longer with it. And then the Tier 2 package, the Pro Tier 2, it goes beyond radar data. It gives you satellite products for goes east and goes west. It adds some things like a real-time mesoscale model, what NOAA calls the MRMS, which stands for multi-radar, multi-sensor. That's a system that takes the data from all of the NextRad radars and the Canadian radars and merges them together into one view. So instead of having to switch from one local radar to another, you can see the whole continental United States. You can see the radar data all put together for that. And the other thing that the Tier 2 package does is it gives you access to a historical archive of NextRad data. When we first launched that, we took it back 30 days. So you could go back 30 days and view storms that had already happened. The impetus for that, other than we're a bunch of weather junkies and we want to go back and look at those things, is it lets people in classrooms go back and study events and learn how to interpret radar data. And it also lets Weather Service meteorologists who go out in the field and do damage surveys take an iPad or an iPhone with them, be looking at the radar data while they're surveying the damage. So they can compare, well, here's what this thing looked like on radar last week, and here's the damage in now. So that was very useful. But then in the last couple of years, we've extended that, and we now have access to the full, pretty much the full historical archive of NextRad radar data in the U.S. So it goes back to the mid-90s.
In the Tier 1 package, Mike, is the information, the weather alerts and all the other information that you just described, is it displayed in a text format, or is it something graphical or funky?
Well, the radar data is all graphical, but we do have we don't have every type of weather warning that the Weather Service puts out, but we have the types that are most associated with convective storms. So tornado, thunderstorm, flash flood, marine warnings, snow squalls, extreme wind. We have all those warning types. And in addition to a warning polygon on the map, we have the text for those. So you can pull up a list of what all the warnings are and what kind of warning is this? Where is it? What is the full text that goes with it, to describe what's going on. So that's all available in the app, even in the basic app. And we've extended that. We extended that stuff last year to break out things like, the Weather Service issues tornado warnings, but several years ago, they started to have different categories or severity ratings. So they'll issue in extreme cases what they call a tornado emergency, and we call those out separately so you can tell when what that distinction is. We also parse out what they call some of the significance tags for things like estimated hail size, estimated wind speed. And is this a tornado warning because they saw a signature for it on the radar, or did a spotter actually spot it on the ground? So we've got all of those things. Estimated damage, which can range from slight to significant to catastrophic. So all of that stuff's available in the app for any particular warning for you to be able to see the details of what the actual threats are.
All right. Are there other questions that anyone would have for Mike this evening?
I got one more, Steve.
All right, go ahead, Joel.
On the first tier app, the $10 a year app, you said that does run totals and what does that go back 24 hours? Or does it go back a week, a month, 30 days? What kind of rain totals does it tell you? And wind speeds, does it do wind speeds also?
Yeah, instantaneous wind speeds. So just what the radar is detecting. And that's, radar detects wind using the Doppler signal from the radar beam. And so it's not going to give you ground wind speed or near ground wind speed. It's going to give you wind speeds aloft wherever the beam, however high the radar beam is. And it can only detect that velocity in one direction. It can detect that velocity either as it's flowing toward the radar or away. So you can use wind speeds detected by radar to detect rotation in storms. You can use it to detect wind shear. You can't really use it to say, hey, I've got a 20 mile an hour wind on the ground, or I've got a 60 mile an hour wind gust on the ground. But that information is included in the warnings they put out where they'll give estimate stuff. The precipitation total, there's a suite of NextRed products besides just your reflectivity image and your velocity. And included in those are some rainfall accumulation estimates. What they're doing there is they're looking at the intensity of the radar signal that comes back, and they're using that, running it through a model and using that to estimate what's the rate of rain that's falling. And then over a particular period of time, how much rain fell during this period of time. And the Weather Service products, the standard ones go back an hour or 3 hours. You get like how much rain's fallen at this location in the last hour or the last 3 hours. They also have one that's called a storm total precipitation. And that one is, that one's up to the discretion of the radar operator. So the guys that are calling the shots and controlling the radar at the individual WFO can decide what the duration is for that. And they usually try to time it around the duration of the storm. So if a storm lasts an hour, it's going to give you an hour's worth of rainfall. If it rains for 6 hours or 2 days, then it's going to be 6 hours or 2 days. And there's information on the legend and radar scope that tells you what's the start time for this. So if you're looking at a storm total accumulation, it'll tell you storm total going back to when.
Very good.
Are there any other questions for Mike this evening? All right, Mike, I don't know if you want to give out an email address. If someone would like to contact you directly, that's your choice. If you do, go ahead and pass that along now.
Sure. Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I will give folks we've got a 24/7 tech support for radar scope. And I actually read all of those that come in. We've got a support team that handles it 24/7, and then I read them every business day. And that is radarscope@dtn.com. And if you email there and if you tag my name on it, I'll definitely see it, but I'll probably see it either way. So we're there to not just support the app and answer questions and help people manage subscriptions and stuff like that. We help with bug reports there. We help with feature requests there. And if you just have a general inquiry about anything we're doing, just mention my name and I will see it probably within 48 hours.
All right. Give us that address once again, please.
It's radarscope@dtn.com.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time to come on our Techzoom this evening. And this is...
Well, I appreciate the invitation. Thank you very much.
exciting app, and I use it frequently, and really keeping my fingers crossed that enhancements can come along and make more information available. That AI will grow, and you'll grow, and it will become even more impressive than it already is.
Well, I hope so. I will say that one of the things that first turned me on to the accessibility and Apple's voiceover system and all of this was one of them was going to an Apple developer conference where I went to a session on it. They showed me how it worked. I thought, well, that was pretty cool. I can't believe they actually were able to come up with a system that makes this thing this easy to use. But I also have an uncle who's visually impaired, and over the course, he's retired now, but he was a software developer too. He was a COBOL programmer at a bank up here in Oklahoma City, and his vision progressively got worse. But I ran into him a couple years after the iPhone came out, and he's just, he's using it, just going to town on it, using it. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? And, how are you doing that? And he's showing it to me. It's just been really impressive to me to see that technology develop and see it get adopted and see how useful it is. And I do think that radar data is, at least as long as I've been working with it, it's a very visual thing. So there are some challenges in making it fully accessible, but I think they're really interesting and fun challenges. Steve, you reaching out to us, giving feedback to us about what works and what doesn't is the best thing you guys can do to just help increase our awareness of ways we can make it better. So I really appreciate that.
All right, Michael, we appreciate you coming in and making your presentation, and hopefully we've answered people's questions. You'll continue to use the app, and look forward to future developments both on the Be My Eyes AI side and from you.
All right, that's great. Thank you guys again. I really appreciate it.
Okay, Mike, thanks for coming. And I think that will end my part of running the meeting, and I will turn it over now to Joel of Israel CAS to continue with the next part of the meeting this evening.
All right. Thanks, Steve. And this is going to be a lot shorter than I thought it was going to be. We put out for the last couple of months looking for new licensed blind hams that are licensed in 2024 and does not have an accessible radio. And I had two people email me in, and one of the gentlemen, he actually had just ordered an accessible TYT MD9600. So I got talking to him about it, and he said, really, I can get a handheld, no problem. So the other gentleman that just was recently licensed does not have any radios or handhelds or anything. He does have an iPhone with repeater phone, so he can get on the Blind Hams network. But after tonight, James Crow is our winner of the new Redivus RT3S. His call sign is KQ4. Hold on. I don't know. QZQ. He's got a cute call sign. I like it. KQ4QZQ. James Crow, if you're here, can you speak up? He might not have been able to make it tonight. I'd send him the information. But anyway, we're going to get the radio out to James. And he lives in a place I used to live. I didn't know him before last week. So there's nothing inside going on, but I met James. He sent me an email, and I got on the phone with him. He's from Chattanooga, Tennessee, where my buddy Gary N4IAM lives. And actually, he's not from Chattanooga. He lives a few miles outside of Chattanooga in Ottawa, Tennessee. If anybody has ever heard of the Little Debbie Corporation, they make the Little Debbie snack cakes. I think James can smell them baking from where he lives, up on a hill there. He's telling me that everybody thinks that they'd love to live where he lives. So hopefully we're going to hear James on the air pretty soon. Thanks to Jeff Bezos for starting the affiliate program. And thanks to all the blind hams that bought products through the affiliate links. We were able to raise $100, enough to buy the radio and to ship it to James. So that's the conclusion of this program. Starting now, the next money we'll probably raise, we're going to try to build somebody an all-star node. Might be a Sherry node. I don't know if we can raise enough to give them a clear node, but if we can get enough money to build an all-star node, then we'll give somebody an all-star node. And we're going to open up the regulations a little bit. We're not going to say you have to be licensed in 2024 or 2025. We're just going to say you do not have an all-star node and would like to have something to get on the Blind Hams network. So that's going to take me another year probably to raise that much money. That's how long it took to raise this money. It's pennies here and there from everything that everybody bought using the links that I sent or the links that we have on the website, blindhams.com. So if you want to help us raise more money to buy somebody an all-star node, buy products off of the Amazon affiliate link on blindhams.com. And for that, I say 7-3, unless anybody else has anything they want to bring up. I think that's going to be all we have tonight. Robert, do you have anything?
No, I don't have anything. I had a little problem with my audio, but enjoyed the program, and thanks for doing all you're doing. That's about all I got.
All right, thanks, Robert. And I think Julian had to go to another meeting. So I want to say that's all we've got. Everybody check us out on the CQ Blind Hams podcast or the CQ Blind Hams YouTube channel and our website, www.blindhams.com. And don't forget all the nets we have on the Blind Hams network. Thanks to Patrick for all his hard work building out the all-star nodes, the DMR, D-Star, System Fusion, P25, Hamshack Hotline, Echolink. All the ways to connect to our network is right there on the bottom of the blindhams.com website. So with that, I'll say 7-3 and good night, everybody.
Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and visit www.blindhams.com.